That power that created and sustains all things is not outside of you, it is within you. It is your consciousness, your awareness of being. The universe cannot say no to you because the universe is not separate from you. You are the universe expressing itself as a human being, having a temporary human experience. Tonight I want to share with you the secret of effective prayer. Prayer is not begging or beseeching an external deity. Prayer is the art of assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled. When you know how to ask properly, there is no power that can say no to your request. Let me share with you a passage from Scripture that reveals this truth. In the book of Mark 1:1-4, we read, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." The secret lies in these words. Believe that you have received it. You must first assume the feeling of already having what you desire before it can manifest in your world. Most people are constantly asking from a state of lack and wondering why their prayers go unanswered. They pray and affirm but remain in the same state of consciousness that does not have what they are seeking. This is the fundamental error. To ask in such a way that the universe cannot say no. You must ask from the state of fulfillment, not from the state of desire. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the secret and the art of successful prayer. Let me illustrate this principle with a simple example. If you desire financial abundance, do not pray by saying, "God, please give me more money," or "Universe, I need financial freedom." This is asking from lack, and your very prayer is a confession of your current state of poverty. Instead, you must assume the feeling of already being financially abundant. How would you feel if you were already financially free? What thoughts would occupy your mind? How would you carry yourself? What conversations would you have when you assume the feeling of financial abundance? When you sleep in the assumption that you are now financially free, you are asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no. For the universe can only reflect back to you your own conception of yourself. Remember the words of the prophet Isaiah, "Before they call, I will answer." This is a profound psychological and spiritual truth. Before you call, before you ask, the answer is already prepared. Your assumption, your state of consciousness, determines what you will call for and consequently what will be answered. I recall a gentleman who attended one of my lectures in New York. He approached me afterward and said, "Mr. Godard, I have been praying for a promotion in my company for 3 years with no results." I asked him, "How do you pray?" He described a process of visualization where he would see himself being congratulated, receiving a new title and a higher salary. But I asked, "What is the feeling you embody after this visualization?" He confessed that he returned to feeling frustrated that it hadn't happened yet. I told him, "You are undoing your prayer with your subsequent feeling state. You must not only visualize the end result, but also sleep in the conviction that it is done." I suggested that he assume the feeling of already having received the promotion before going to sleep each night. Within 2 weeks, he received not just a promotion, but a position 2 levels higher than he had initially sought. This is the law, and it never fails. But you must understand that your conscious assumption, though false to your senses if persisted in, will harden into fact. The time it takes for your assumption to become fact depends on the naturalness of the feeling. How deeply you are embracing the new state. Now there is another aspect to asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no, and that is detachment. Many of you have heard of the importance of detachment in manifestation, but detachment is often misunderstood. Detachment does not mean not caring about your desire. It means complete faith that it is already yours in the spiritual realm and must by law materialize in the physical realm. True detachment comes from the conviction that what you have assumed in consciousness is already a fact in the spiritual realm, which is the realm of causation. The physical realm is merely the realm of effects. Cause always precedes effect. Your consciousness is the cause. Your world is the effect. Let me share with you another example to illustrate this principle. A young woman came to me in despair over her marriage. Her husband had left her for another woman, and all logical evidence suggested that the marriage was over. I asked her if she truly wanted her husband back, and she confirmed with tears in her eyes that she did. I told her, "Your task is simple but not easy. You must assume that your husband has returned and that your marriage is more harmonious than ever before. You must live from the end. When you go to sleep at night, feel the joy and gratitude of having your husband back. Feel his presence beside you in bed. Hear his voice expressing his love for you. Feel the wedding ring on your finger. Do this with conviction, and the universe cannot say no." She practiced this faithfully for 3 weeks. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, unexpectedly, her husband called. They met for coffee, which led to dinner, and within a month he had moved back home. But here's the interesting part. He told her that during those 3 weeks he couldn't stop thinking about her. He felt inexplicably drawn back to her despite his logical mind telling him to stay away. This is how the law works. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are exercising the divine power within you, which is your imagination, and your imagination, sustained with conviction, will externalize itself in your physical reality. I want to emphasize that this is not mere positive thinking or wishful thinking. This is the application of an immutable spiritual law. The Bible calls it faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is the feeling of possession of the things desired. Faith is coming from a state of knowing, not hoping or wishing. Now let us delve deeper into the mechanics of this process. How exactly do you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled? It begins with a decision. You must decide what you want to be, to have, or to experience. Be specific. Be clear. Then you must construct a scene in your imagination that implies the fulfillment of your desire. For instance, if you desire a new home, create a scene where a friend is congratulating you on your beautiful new home. Feel their handshake or embrace. Hear their voice. Smell the freshness of your new space. Feel the emotion of pride and gratitude for having your new home. This scene, if constructed with sensory vividness and emotional intensity, and if persisted in until it takes on the tone of reality, will materialize in your physical world. This is asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no, because you are not asking in the traditional sense at all. You are claiming, you are appropriating, you are assuming, you are exercising your divine right as a creator made in the image of God. I must stress that this principle applies to every area of your life: health, wealth, relationships, career, spiritual growth, and more. There is no limit to what you can achieve through the proper application of your imagination. Consider the case of physical healing. If you are experiencing illness or physical discomfort, the conventional approach is to focus on the problem, to fight against it, to see it as an enemy to be conquered. But this keeps you locked in the consciousness of illness. Instead, assume the feeling of being perfectly healthy. Feel the energy coursing through your body. Feel the joy of pain-free movement. Feel the gratitude for your robust health. This feeling state persisted in will manifest as physical well-being. I recall a woman who had been diagnosed with a chronic condition that doctors said was incurable. She came to me in desperation, having exhausted all medical options. I taught her this principle of assuming the feeling of her wish fulfilled. I instructed her to go to sleep each night in the assumption of perfect health, to feel the joy and gratitude of being completely healed. Within 3 months, she returned to her doctor for a checkup, and to the doctor's astonishment, there was no trace of the condition. The doctor called it a spontaneous remission, a medical miracle. But it was no miracle in the sense of a violation of natural law. It was the perfect operation of the law of assumption. She had changed her concept of herself, and her body reflected that new concept. Now, some of you may be thinking, but Wayne, what about the time gap? What about the waiting period between my assumption and its manifestation in the physical world? This is where most people falter. They cannot sustain the faith through the interval of time. They begin to doubt, to question, to look for results, and in doing so, they revert to the old state of consciousness, the state of lack. The key is to understand that time is merely a psychological construct, a measurement of the interval between events. In the realm of spirit, in the realm of consciousness, there is no time. Your desire is already fulfilled the moment you assume the feeling of its fulfillment. The time it takes to materialize in the physical realm is determined by various factors, including the naturalness of the state to you and the degree to which you persist in the new state. Do not be concerned with the how. The universe, God, your own wonderful human imagination will take care of the how. Your job is to remain faithful to the end, to the state of fulfillment. As you do this, the bridge of incidents will form naturally to lead you to the physical realization of your desire. Let me give you another example to illustrate this point. A man desired to travel to a foreign country but lacked the financial means to do so. Instead of focusing on the lack of money, he began to assume the feeling of already being in that country. Each night before sleep, he would imagine smelling the distinct aromas of that country's cuisine, hearing the local language being spoken, seeing the famous landmarks, and feeling the unique texture of the local fabrics. He persisted in this assumption for several weeks. Then, out of the blue, he received a call from a company that was expanding into that very country. They had seen his resume online and wanted to interview him for a position that would require him to relocate there. Not only would they cover his travel expenses, but they would also provide a salary that far exceeded what he was currently earning. Was this a coincidence? There are no coincidences in a universe governed by law. It was the perfect externalization of his internal state. He had asked in such a way that the universe could not say no. I must also address a question that often arises. What about the desires of others? What if my desire conflicts with someone else's? This stems from a misunderstanding of the nature of consciousness. Consciousness is one, although it appears to be many. There is only one God, one imagination expressing itself through countless human forms. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are not imposing your will on another. You are simply attracting to yourself to circumstances, people, and events that match your state of consciousness. Everyone is you pushed out. The world is yourself pushed out. What you see in others is a reflection of your own consciousness. If you want to change your world, change your concept of yourself. As within, so without. This is the ancient Hermetic principle, and it is as true today as it was thousands of years ago. Now I want to share with you a technique that I have found particularly effective in assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is the technique of revision. Revision is the art of mentally rewriting a past event to align with your desired outcome. By revising the past, you are actually recreating your future, because the future is a projection of your past beliefs and assumptions. For example, if you had a disagreement with a colleague at work, instead of carrying the negative energy of that encounter, revise it in your imagination. See the conversation going harmoniously. Feel the mutual respect and understanding. Hear the words of agreement and cooperation. By revising the past event, you are changing your state of consciousness and consequently your future interactions with that person. Revision can be applied to any past event that continues to affect your present state of consciousness negative. By mentally rewriting these events, you are asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no. Another powerful technique is the use of affirmative prayer, or what I call imaginative assertion. Unlike traditional prayer, which often takes the form of petition or supplication, affirmative prayer is the declaration of what is already true in spirit. It is claiming what is already yours by divine right. For instance, instead of saying, "God, please heal my body," say with conviction, "I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy." Feel the truth of these words. Embody them. Let them permeate your consciousness until they become your dominant state. This is asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no, because you are not asking from a place of lack or need. You are affirming the truth of your being, the truth of who you really are. I want to emphasize that the techniques that visualization, revision, affirmative prayer, or any other are merely aids to help you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The techniques themselves are not the power. The power is in your consciousness, in your ability to assume and persist in a state. Let me share with you a personal experience that illustrates this principle. Many years ago, I desired to travel to Barbados to visit my family, but I lacked the funds to make the journey. Instead of dwelling on my lack of resources, I began to assume the feeling of already being in Barbados. Each night before sleep, I would imagine lying in my familiar bed in my family home in Barbados. I would hear the distinct sound of the palm trees rustling in the Caribbean breeze. I would smell the salt air and feel the warmth of the tropical climate. I persisted in this assumption for several weeks, falling asleep each night in the feeling of already being in Barbados. Then one day I received a letter from my brother in Barbados. Inside the letter was a ticket for passage to Barbados, a gift from my family. The law had worked perfectly. My internal assumption had externalized itself. This is the law, and it never fails. But you must apply it correctly. You must ask from the state of having, not from the state of wanting. You must embody the consciousness of already being what you want to be, already having what you want to have, already experiencing what you want to experience. Now, I want to address a common misconception. Many people believe that they must get rid of all negative thoughts to manifest their desires. This is not true. Thoughts and of themselves do not create reality. It is the feeling, the emotional state, the consciousness that creates reality. You will always have passing thoughts, both positive and negative. The key is not to identify the negative thoughts, not to dwell in them, not to make them your home. Instead, choose deliberately the state you wish to occupy and persist in it despite any contrary thoughts or appearances. This brings me to another important principle, the principle of attention. Whatever you focus your attention on, you energize and manifest in your life. Your attention is like a spotlight. Whatever it illuminates becomes your reality. Therefore, be selective with your attention. Direct it consciously toward what you want, not toward what you do not want. If you want health, do not give your attention to illness. If you want wealth, do not give your attention to poverty. If you want harmonious relationships, do not give your attention to conflict. This is asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no. I once worked a businessman who was facing financial ruin. His company was on the verge of bankruptcy and all external evidence pointed to an inevitable collapse. I taught him the principle of attention. I told him, do not give life to the bankruptcy by dwelling on it, by talking about it, by feeling the despair of it. Instead, direct your attention to the state of financial prosperity. I instructed him to create a mental scene that implied the financial turnaround of his company. In his imagination, he crafted a scene where his accountant was showing him balance sheets indicating substantial profits. He felt the relief, the joy, the gratitude of this turnaround. He persisted in this mental exercise for several weeks. During this time, an opportunity presented itself that he would have missed had he been focused on bankruptcy. This opportunity led to a partnership that not only saved his company but propelled it to new heights of success. This is the law in operation. By directing his attention to the desired state, by dwelling in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, he asked in such a way that the universe could not say no. I want to underscore that this principle is not about ignoring reality or living in denial. It is about understanding the true nature of reality. The external world is a shadow reflection of internal states. By changing your internal state, you inevitably change the external reflection. Think of it this way. If you are looking at your reflection in a mirror and you do not like what you see, it would be futile to try to change the reflection directly. You must change what is being reflected yourself. Similarly, if you do not like what you see in your world, you must change your concept of yourself, your state of consciousness. This brings me to another crucial aspect of asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no. Self-concept. Your self-concept, your idea of who you are, is the foundation of all your manifestations. Everything you experience is a reflection of your concept of yourself. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will manifest experiences that confirm this unworthiness. If you see yourself as a victim, you will manifest experiences of victimization. If you see yourself as powerful, loved, and abundant, you will manifest experiences that confirm these qualities. Therefore, the most fundamental change you can make is to change your concept of yourself. Assume the feeling of being the person you want to be. Live from that assumption. This is asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no. I recall a young actor who came to me discouraged by his lack of success in the film industry. Despite his talent and dedication, he had been unable to secure significant roles. When I inquired about his self-concept, he revealed that he saw himself as a struggling actor, always on the periphery of success. I told him, that is your problem. You are assuming the state of struggle, and the universe is faithfully reflecting back to you that state. You must change your concept of yourself. You must see yourself as a successful actor in demand for major roles. I guided him in constructing a scene that implied his success in the industry. In his imagination, he would read reviews praising his performance in a major film. He would feel the satisfaction, the pride, the fulfillment of being recognized for his talent. He persisted in this new self-concept for several months. And then, as if by magic, though it was not magic but law, he was called to audition for a significant role in a major production. He secured the role, and his performance was indeed praised by critics just as he had imagined. This is the law. By changing his concept of himself, he changed his reality. He asked in such a way that the universe could not say no. Now I want to address a question that often arises. What about collective events or global conditions? Can my individual consciousness affect these? The answer is yes, but with a caveat. Your experience of the collective is still your individual experience. You can only experience what matches your state of consciousness. For instance, in times of economic downturn, Some people experience hardship and lack, while others experience opportunity and abundance. Same external condition, different individual experiences because of different states of consciousness. Therefore, do not be concerned with changing the world. Be concerned with changing yourself, your concept of yourself. As you do this, your experience of the world will change. And as more individuals do this, the collective experience changes as well. I want to emphasize that this principle is not selfish or self-centered in a negative sense. It is simply a recognition of the law of consciousness. You cannot give what you do not have. You cannot project what you do not possess within yourself. By focusing on your own state of consciousness, you are actually serving others in the highest way possible by becoming an embodiment of what you wish to see in the world. Let me share with you one final example to illustrate the power of this principle. A woman I knew desired to help the homeless in her community. She volunteered at shelters, donated money and resources, advocated for policy changes, all external actions, coming from a place of compassion, but also from a consciousness of otherness, of separation. Despite her efforts, she felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of the problem and frustrated by the seeming lack of progress. I suggested a different approach. Instead of seeing the homeless as separate from herself, as others to be helped, I advised her to assume the state of consciousness where homelessness was already saw. In her imagination, she created scenes where the once homeless individuals in her community were now living in comfortable homes, engaged in meaningful work, integrated into society. She felt the joy, the relief, the satisfaction of this fulfilled state. As she persisted in this new state of consciousness, something remarkable began to happen. She found herself inspired with new ideas and approaches. She connected with individuals and organizations that shared her vision. Resources that were previously unavailable suddenly materialized. Within a year, her community had implemented innovative solutions that significantly reduced homelessness. Was this a coincidence? No. It was the law in operation. By assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, by asking from the state of fulfillment rather than from the state of lack or problem, she asked in such a way that the universe could not say no. In conclusion, I want to remind you of the core principle we've explored tonight. The universe cannot say no to you when you ask from the state of fulfillment. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, this is the art and the science of effective prayer. Remember, your consciousness is the only reality. What you assume, you become. What you believe, you receive. What you embody, you manifest. The external world is a shadow, a reflection of internal states. Therefore, choose wisely the state you wish to occupy. Dwell in it, live from it. Fall asleep in it, and watch as the universe rearranges itself to reflect back to you your new concept of yourself. The power is within you. It has always been within you. It is your own wonderful human imagination which is God in action. Use it deliberately. Use it lovingly. Use it wisely. When you know how to properly from the state of fulfillment rather than from the state of lack, there is no power in heaven or on earth that can say no to your request. For in truth, you are not requesting anything. You are claiming what is already yours by divine right. Go forth now with this knowledge, apply it in your daily life, test it, prove it to yourself, and experience the freedom, the joy, the abundance that is your birthright. Remember always, you are the operant power in your world. You are the author of your life story. You are the God of your universe. Ask from that place of power, from that place of knowing, and the universe cannot, indeed, it will not say no. I thank you for your attention tonight. Blessings upon each and every one of you. May you go forth and create deliberately, consciously, and joyfully. I have shared with you tonight the principle that transcends all religious dogmas, all philosophical systems, all cultural traditions. It is the principle of consciousness, the principle of imagination, the principle of assumption. It is the principle that Jesus taught when he said, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours." This principle has been taught by the great spiritual teachers throughout history, though often veiled in symbolism and allegory. Tonight, I have attempted to unveil it, to present it in its naked simplicity, so that you may apply it directly in your life. The great secret is this: the world is yourself pushed out. Everything that you experience is a reflection of your own consciousness. Change your consciousness, and then you change your world. This is asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no. As you leave here tonight, I encourage you to begin immediately to apply this principle. Choose a desire, something that you truly want to be, to have, or to experience. Construct a scene in your imagination that implies the fulfillment of this desire. Enter into the scene. Make it as vivid and as real as possible. Feel the emotions that would be yours if your desire were already fulfilled. Then each night as you go to sleep, replay this scene in your imagination. Fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Do this faithfully, persistently, and you will be amazed at how quickly your external reality begins to rearrange itself to match your internal assumption. Remember, the universe responds not to your words, not to your thoughts, but to your state of consciousness, to your feeling state. When you feel that something is real, when you embody the state of its reality, the universe has no choice but to reflect back to you that reality. This is the true meaning of faith. Faith is not belief in the unknown. Faith is the feeling of the known. Faith is the feeling of possession of that which is not yet visible to the senses. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. When you operate from faith, when you live from the end, when you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are asking in such a way that the universe say no. I leave you with this final thought. You are divine. You are God in human form. The power that created and sustains the universe resides within you as your own wonderful human imagination. Use this power consciously. Use it lovingly. And there is nothing that you cannot be, do, or have. Go forth now and create the life of your dreams, for indeed it is your divine right and your divine responsibility to do so. Thank you, and God bless you.